Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the annual meeting of FNB Hartford Bancorp, Inc. I'm glad to see you all this morning, and welcome to those that are joining us online as well. Just a little housekeeping before we begin the formalities for today's meeting is that if you're joining us online and you have questions, there is a Q&A session available. Please feel free to submit your questions there. They'll be relayed to either myself or Rochelle as the chair for the board, and we'll address those for you. Also, as it relates to motions, we will not accept motions online as well too. Those will come from people that are present. So there's just a delay in the timing of that, and we want to keep the meeting moving along. So those are the few housekeeping items I have to share with you. And again, welcome and thank you for joining us. I'll turn the meeting over to our chair, Rochelle Prieshkin.
Thank you, Tim. Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to welcome everyone to the FNB Hartford Bancorp annual meeting. I would like to call this meeting to order. I am Rochelle Prieshkin. I have been on the board since November 2013. In September, I was elected to chairman of the board after the resignation of Dennis Carroll, who has been in the banking business 60 years. We would all like to thank Dennis for all his insight and commitment to community banking and Forte Bank. Just a little about myself. I went to college, and following graduation, I have spent my career in our family business, Triton Corporation, which is in Hartford. We have been a customer of the bank since 1975 when we started the business. Without the partnership from First National Bank, now Forte Bank, we would not have been able to grow our business to a small, successful manufacturing company. And with that said, we will get this meeting underway. So I call for nominations and election of chairman and secretary for today's meeting.
I nominate Rochelle Prieshkin as chair and Lori Hilger as secretary.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now we have a declaration of compliance requirements for conducting the annual meeting. In accordance with the bylaws of the corporation, a majority of the outstanding shares of the corporation entitled to vote, represented in person or by proxy, shall constitute a quorum at the meeting of the shareholders. As of the close of business on Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 at 5 p.m., the corporation had received 382,822 proxies, representing 88% of the shares outstanding. As such, I will declare that sufficient shares are represented either in person or by proxy to properly conduct this annual meeting. We will have the reading of the minutes of the July 2020 annual meeting, and the minutes will be read by Lori Hilger, the corporate secretary.
Good morning.
Morning.
July 22nd, 2020. Chairman of the board, Dennis Carroll, called the annual meeting of the FNB Hartford Bancorp, Inc. to order at 10:05 a.m. 16 shareholders were represented in person and 10 shareholders were present via Zoom. The first order of business was to elect a chairman and secretary for the meeting. Kenneth Reiser made a motion, Dennis Carroll act as chairman, and Lori Hilger act as secretary. Motion seconded by Thomas Mayatke. Motion carried. Chairman Carroll declared, in accordance with the bylaws of the corporation, a majority of the outstanding shares of the corporation entitled to vote, represented in person or by proxy, shall constitute a quorum at a meeting of the shareholders. As of Tuesday, July 21st, 2020 at 5 p.m., the corporation had received proxies representing 364,714 of the outstanding shares, or 83.6%. As such, I declare sufficient shares represented in person or by proxy to properly conduct this annual meeting. Lori Hilger read the minutes of the March 27th, 2019 annual meeting. There being no additions or corrections, Scott Lopez made a motion to approve the minutes as read. Rochelle Prieshkin seconded the motion. Motion carried. Lori Hilger presented the following 2019 F&B Hartford Bancorp Inc. reports: year-end balance sheet, income and expense statement, and reserve accounts. Chairman Carroll reported the Board of Directors has placed into nomination the following Class 3 directors: Alan Lawfer, Thomas Mayatke, and Dr. Mark Lindborg. The next order of business was voting on the directors in nomination. No other nominations for director were received. In accordance with the corporation's bylaws, nominations for director have been closed. Chairman Carroll informed the shareholders present. Shareholders who returned their proxy, their shares will cast as provided in the proxy. Shareholders in attendance today who have not returned a proxy should have received a ballot upon registration. You will be asked to cast your ballot and present them to our ballot clerk, Kathy Ingalls. Voting will remain open until 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Shareholders who submitted a proxy vote may vote by ballot and must contact our corporate secretary to receive a ballot and submit the ballot via electronic means by 3 p.m. Central Standard Time today. President Timothy Perman addressed the stockholders in attendance at the meeting. He reported to the stockholders on the following: loan and deposit growth trends, 5-year positive trend in non-performing assets to total assets ratio, 5-year trend of net charge-offs to average loans, 5-year trend of Texas ratio, 5-year growth trend of net income, 5-year growth trend in return on assets in comparison to our peer, 5-year growth trend of earnings per share, 5-year growth trend of return on equity. F&B Hartford Bancorp Inc. 5-year stock valuation in comparison to book value. Conversion to state bank charter benefits, and summarized the related expenses to our name and charter change. 2020 performance targets. Chairman Carroll reported the voting results received to date. To elect the Class 3 directors, votes for the 3 nominees, 353,451. Withholding authority to vote for the 3 nominees, 3,000. Withholding authority to vote for individual nominees, 8,263. Chairman Dennis Carroll recognized that the 3 nominees have received a sufficient number of votes in favor of their election as directors of the corporation and declares them duly elected, subject to the 3:00 p.m. closure for all voting and confirmation by the corporation secretary. Kenneth Reiser made a motion for the same proxy arrangement for the next annual meeting. Alan Lawfer seconded the motion. Motion carried. Other business? None. There being no further business, Chairman Carroll concluded the in-person meeting at 10:48 a.m. The annual meeting will automatically adjourn at 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Thank you, Lauren. So are there any corrections or additions to the minutes as read? All right, call for a motion to approve the minutes.
So move. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Now we will have the presentation of the 2020 financial reports, which will be presented by Lori Hilger, Chief Financial Officer.
I will be reporting on information that was sent to you in your annual meeting packet invitation. First off, we have our balance sheet. Fed funds sold increased 213% or almost $23 million. Investment remained relatively flat. Loans, we grew $31.76 million year over year. Of this growth, at the end of the year, 9.7 of this million was in payroll protection loans, and the other 22 million was organic loan growth by our lending team. Deposits grew 44 million or 22.21%. That's outstanding growth for this year. It was generated by organic growth, federal stimulus, PPP loans, and flight to safety. The bulk of our growth was in our core deposits, checking accounts, money markets, and savings. Any questions on our balance sheet? Moving on to page 3, your income statement. Investments. Investment income declined almost 230,000. And considering the most of our investment portfolio has call features, and with 175 basis point decline in interest rates in March, a lot of our investments were called, so we just tried to replace them. Loan growth. Loan interest income is up 13.49%. And of this $1,080,000 increase, 326,000 of it was related to the PPP loans. The rest we made up in organic loan growth. So total interest income was up 9.49% year over year. Onto interest expense. Interest expense on deposits declined 2.92%, which is $31,296, even though we had a $44 million increase in deposits. Again, a significant part of our growth was in our core deposits and non-interest bearing checking accounts. Onto borrowings, interest expense increased 16.29%. At the end of 2009, the bank had $3 million in borrowings. And at the end of 2020, we had $11.5 million. We beefed up our balance sheet with low cost borrowings during the pandemic, with uncertainty not showing what we would need to do or what was going to happen. By the end of this May, we'll be down to $1.5 million in borrowings. So total interest expense declined 1.6% year over year. Any questions on interest margin? Provision for loan losses. I'm still on page 3. We increased our provision $420,000. Mostly due for reasons of not uncertainty of in the market. Although we have low past dues, we still thought it was prudent to increase provision. On to non-interest income. Service fees on deposits increased 2.11%. And the increase wasn't due to service charges to our customers on their deposit accounts. The bulk of this income came from interchange fees. Due to the pandemic, more people were using their debit cards and electronic means of their accessing their money. Investment service fees was relatively flat with a decline of 3.46%. Gain on sales of loans to the secondary market increased up $1,291,673 or 379%. Never in my 40 years of banking have I seen refinancing in this velocity. It's amazing. Our retail loan team worked lots of hours to make this happen. Other non-interest income growth is from loan servicing, merchant services, lease referrals, and a final collection on some other real estate. So total other non-interest income increased 14.26%. So total non-interest income increased year over year $1,361,000 or 88.7%. On to non-interest expenses. Salaries and benefits increased $472,000. The biggest percentage increase in that area was in our health insurance. We had more employees taking health insurance, and the cost did increase. Computer services costs increased 22.73%. Due to the pandemic, we beefed up our technology spend. Many more employees were able to work remotely. So we spent money on network security, equipment to make sure we could continue at the rates, at the efficiencies that we were currently experiencing. We also began offering some new deposit products for our customers. We have Notify for our customers. They can receive a text or an email about almost anything they would want to know about their deposit or loan account. That's an additional secure feature for them. Banking online for business accounts and mobile deposit for business accounts. Advertising declined almost 17%. FDIC insurance increased 87%. During the last pandemic, FDIC started charging a higher rate because there were many bank failures during the last recession. But as the economy improved, the FDIC returned their excess funds in the form of reduced FDIC insurance premiums. That expired at the end of, about the first quarter of 2020. And so now we are up to paying normal rates for FDIC insurance. All other expenses declined 6.72%, or about 111,000. So total non-interest expense increased 7.96% year over year, or $542,000. All of this information resulted in net income before taxes of $3,639,000, an increase of $1,268,198. We paid taxes of $873,443, bringing the holding company to net income of $2,765,576, a 49.66% increase over 2019. Are there any questions on the financial statements? Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Then I'm going to turn the floor over to Tim Perman to talk about 2020 management reports.
Thank you, Rochelle. And thank you, Lori, for a nice financial report and sharing of the bank's financial successes last year. Kind of similar to what I've done in the past, I just kind of want to share some things, and these charts should be available to you as well online to view. The first graph that I'm sharing with you is just a 5-year average, or not average, but a 5-year final tally of where the bank's been in terms of total loan and deposit growth. You can see that over the last 3 years, we've had significant growth on both sides of the balance sheet, loans and deposits. Loans from an average standpoint have exceeded 10% on an annualized basis. And that even takes out, as Lori indicated, there was a fair amount of balances on our books for PPP loans at the end of last year. If you take those balances off the equation, we still exceeded 10% loan growth. So the last 3-year history has been right on target and right in line with our strategic objectives, and that is to be at about 10% loan growth. On the same time, you can see a ramping up of deposit growth starting from 4% in 2018, all the way up to 21.3% at the end of last year, and again, well exceeding our target of 6% overall. So excellent growth in the balance sheet on both sides of the ledger, both assets and liabilities. The next information I'll share with you is next 3 slides will be asset quality. Non-performing assets to total assets, you can see a continual decline in non-performing assets. Again, those are non-accruals and past dues 90 days or more. You can see that on the right-hand side is the industry or peer group, and on the left-hand side of this chart is Forte Bank. We are hand in hand declining with the overall financial industry and below peer, which is outstanding performance from an asset quality standpoint. Next slide will indicate not net charge-offs to average loans. Again, left-hand side is Forte Bank. Right-hand side of this chart is peer group. This also indicates a 2-period moving average. So it really takes a look at the last 5 years of total history, but does again a 2-year average on this. You can see that we had a slight increase in 2018, but we've had net recoveries in excess of charge-offs for the last 2 years. The trend line is excellent in this area, and again, a strong reflection of the asset quality of Forte Bank at this time. The next couple of slides are ones that I've added this year, and I thought they'd be important given the economics that are going on and certainly relevant to the pandemic that we've been engaged with here for the last 12 months. So these are statistics as of the end of the year, and they will actually take into account all activity with regards to loan deferrals, forbearances, and emergency lending support, and I'll classify that as paycheck protection loans. So this is the number of Forte Bank customers that were impacted, both in terms of number of customers and number of loans. So for deferred loans, we had 27 customers that we provided deferrals with, and that included 44 loans. On the retail side, it's technically considered a forbearance. We had 7 customers and 10 loans that were impacted by granting of forbearances. Commercial deferrals at the end of the year had declined to 1 customer and 2 loans, and forbearances were 2 customers and 2 loans. So you see the decline of what happened with granted deferrals or forbearances at the onset and through the period as it relates to, I'll say, pandemic-related circumstances. And overall, the performance of our portfolio has been outstanding in this. I know that in talking with several of my peers that banks have significantly higher balances and numbers of loans that have been, and customers that have been impacted by COVID, and their numbers are higher. But these are minute numbers as it relates to total customers and total loans that requested and were granted either deferral of their loan payments or forbearances. And then at the very right-hand side of this is information relative to paycheck protection loans that we did. We did 210 loans in round 1, and we're in round 2 right now. And I just provide that information that we're at 99 loans so far. So this kind of gives you an indication of the level of support that the bank has granted to commercial and retail loan customers. Again, not a high number of individuals requesting deferral or forbearance throughout the entire portfolio. And we've seen those numbers actually go back into repayment. So from that standpoint, repayment history within our portfolio was outstanding, even given a pandemic situation. The next chart is in terms of dollars. So deferrals that we granted on commercial credits were just over 12.5 million. And the balances at the end of the year were 472,000. So a significant decline in the number of borrowers on the commercial side that were in formal deferrals, and those have gone back into repayment. On the retail side, we had 751 granted forbearances in terms of dollars, and we're down to 341,000 at the end of the year. In round 1 of PPP or Paycheck Protection, we did $16.1 million in advances. We're currently at as of February, we're at 5.4 million. So the difference there are loans that have been granted forgiveness. That's a significant portion of the portfolio that has been in and out of round 1. In round 2, as of March 18th, we did $6.7 million in advances so far. And again, none of those are required or requested or forgiveness at this point. So they're still outstanding balances at this point in time. So those will give you a little bit of a flavor of the asset quality and how we've been supporting our loan customers this past year. I'll now move into consolidated income. The next chart just kind of gives you a 5-year history on net income. As Lori indicated, last year's net income of the corporation was $2.7 million, a 49% increase. Outstanding performance given kind of the circumstances that were presented to the bank and the industry last year. But the last 3 years have been a steady incline. Again, 2020, just simply outstanding net income performance. The next chart will be earnings per share. And again, this follows the net income of the bank, but earnings per share last year, again, up 49% at $6.34 per share. And again, the last 3 years have been increasing. The next chart I'll share with you is return on average assets. In 2020, we took a swing in that our performance actually exceeded our peer group. Again, a peer group for our bank would be a commercial bank with assets between 100 and 300 million, and 3 full service offices located in a metropolitan statistical area. And again, our ROA last year was 105 compared to a peer group of 0.09. So again, reflective of the strong performance of last year. Return on equity has been improving again each of the last 3 years. This most recent year ending at 10.2%. Again, heading in a strong direction. The next slide then is on stock value. And there we're caught up here. So as you know, we have our stock evaluated at the end of each year by a third party. As of last Friday, I received the current stock value at $72.50 per share. That's an increase over the $67.45 per share that we ended last year. The green bar is our book value. So a comparison of book value to appraised value, 65.21 to 72.50. I believe that the increase in our appraised value again is reflective of an outstanding performance from a financial standpoint in 2020. Just a couple of things I want to say that will kind of summarize 2020. Certainly as an industry and as Forte Bank, circumstances that we would have never kind of dreamt up would happen. However, I really want to acknowledge the performance of the Forte Bank team. As the financial statements reflect outstanding growth in loans, outstanding growth in fee income, outstanding growth on the deposit side. Much of that, both on the loan side and the deposit side, I'll attribute to organic growth as well too. PPP obviously influenced our net balance sheet at the end of the year, but with the forgiveness that was received on those, again, net income, our net increase in loans was over 10%, which again is an outstanding year. And along with that came a lot of organic growth on the commercial side with new commercial customers as well. Obviously acknowledging that government support of individuals influenced our growth on the deposit side, but organic growth was obviously present as well at the same time, and I expect that to hold. So not only is it the performance of the team that I want to recognize with regards to those things that are easily identifiable, such as balance growth and net income, but the circumstances of which the team operated last year were extremely unusual and challenging. And we closed our lobbies immediately after the onset of the pandemic, remaining open in our drive-ups and then via electronic communications as well too, and allowing people to come in by appointment. So I would say a stressful situation, to say the least, from a personnel and employee standpoint, but your team here did an outstanding job, and they worked with customers to support their needs while the lobbies were not open, inviting them in again on an individual basis to take care of whatever needed to be done. They developed, the management team of the bank put into place remote work capabilities for many of our team members as possible. That helped support ongoing efforts to work with our customers. And then we returned to full service in our lobbies towards the end of May, shortly after Memorial Day. And the team responded extremely well. Obviously, we followed all the recommendations with regards to social distancing and face masks and that. But the team came to work on a daily basis and did an outstanding job, delivered exceptional service to our customers. And I'm extremely proud and pleased to report that to you. Great job by the Forte Bank team. So I just want to share that with you and acknowledge their strong efforts as well. So that'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have, Tim, we have
Yeah.
one question
Yep.
on the remote viewers.
Sure.
The question is, salary and benefits costs increased $472,000. In addition to increased participation in health coverage, what was the average headcount year over year in 2020?
The average head count, maybe Lori, you can help me with this. I think our FTEs at the end of 2019 were, I think, 56. And I believe we ended up at the end of 2020, I think at 53. So we were down 3 FTEs overall. Also contributing to salary and benefit expense is a couple of things that I'll share with you. And I think these are really critical. I mentioned the performance of the overall team. Many of our personnel have incentive plans, and the numbers that were achieved in terms of loan growth, fee income growth are tied to incentives. So the bank paid out extremely high incentives based on last year's performance, which is, I think, critical to continuing to promote high performance. And I'm very pleased that we paid those, because those individuals worked extremely hard and earned those benefits. So that's one component. Overall as well, because of, again, the strong performance of the entire team, the board elected to pay what I'll call an exemplary performance award to all employees across the board as a result, again, of their strong management of the pandemic situation. So those 2 things combined, along with, as Lori mentioned, the increase in health and other benefits, contributed to that overall increase. Great question.
Right. Now it is time for election of Class 1 directors. Corporation directors are elected on a classified basis, with the corporation having 3 classes of directors. Directors are generally elected to serve for a 3-year term or shorter if the director was elected or appointed to fill a vacancy. The bank's 3 classes of directors are elected and serve on a staggered terms. The following individuals have been placed into nomination by the board of directors to serve as Class 1 directors: Rochelle Prishkin, Scott Lopez, and Craig Sumner. Craig Sumner was appointed to fill the remaining term of Director and Chairman Dennis Carroll, who retired and resigned effective August 1st, 2020. In accordance with the provisions outlined within the corporation's bylaws for the election of directors, no other nominations for director have been received. As such, nominations for director have been closed, and the individuals so named and will be those for whom voting will take place. So Tim's going to give a little background on the director's requirement.
So again, I wanted to welcome Craig on board as a director for the corporation. Just a little background for Craig. He's a lifelong resident of Hartford. He and his wife Mary have been married for 31 years, and they have 3 children. And Craig joined the insurance industry in 1985, working part-time in his father's agency. Upon graduation with a degree in business administration from UW Oshkosh, he joined R.S. Sumner and Associates in January of 1990, working full-time. He's been in the insurance industry for 36 years, 13 years as the president of his company, R.S. Sumner Insurance, and he acquired the company 8 years ago, purchasing it from his father, and now is owner and president of R.S. Sumner Insurance here in Hartford. In addition to Craig's work in the business, he currently serves as assistant fire chief to the Hartford Fire and Rescue Department. He's a current member and former board member of Peace Lutheran Church, the Hartford Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Hartford Golf Club, and he currently serves as a board member of the Hartford Union High School Scholarship Foundation. Craig is, I think, well qualified to serve as a director. Again, he is filling as an appointment, the remaining term of Dennis Carroll. And that term came up for election at this annual meeting. So Craig is an outstanding addition, in my opinion, to the board of directors, and his unique perspective on risk management, being in the risk in the insurance industry, I think will serve the board and the bank very well. So welcome, Craig, to the bank. In terms of directorships, we have many people that are current shareholders of the bank who could be considered as directors for the bank, and the board takes a strong look at all of the people who are current shareholders as representing all shareholders on the board of directors. Common things that we look for are obviously a high level of personal integrity, an established track record in business ownership, or in a professional position, community involvement, a valued customer of Forte Bank. We look for individuals that are utilizing bank services and a myriad of bank services. Also having a perspective on the value of community banks and are willing to promote not just community banking, but specifically Forte Bank, and recommend family, friends, and other businesses to do business with Forte Bank. And also the ability to devote time. The role of a director today is continuing to grow. The amount of oversight by members of the board of directors has increased over the years with the level of risk inherent within the financial services industry. And so those are categories of considerations and attributes that we look to for those that would potentially serve as directors of the corporation. And again, we're very fortunate that within our role of shareholders, we have many individuals that could be considered for a directorship here at the bank. So just a little background on that. And I also want to share a couple of comments with regards to Dennis Carroll. As Rochelle indicated, Dennis retired from the board on August 1st. Many of you know Dennis and have known him for a long time. And in February of last year, he celebrated 60 years in community banking, which there are not very many individuals in the state of Wisconsin that can tout that accomplishment. And I'd say it's a significant accomplishment. But you know, most of you know Dennis's background. He joined the bank in 1960. He became an officer of the bank in 1968, and he was elected to the board in 1968 as well. Served as various managerial roles throughout his career. He retired from the bank on December 31st, 1999. He was elected chair of the board of the bank on November 9th, 2002. And again, has just been really instrumental in many things that have gone on within our organization, the formation of a one bank holding company, the formation of a stock program for employees, an ESOP, the first bank-owned community development corporation, which is designed to promote economic development within a community. At that time, the bank, being First National Bank of Hartford, applied for and received the first approved application for a community bank development corporation. And he's just been extremely active throughout the community over the years as well, too. Serving as an incorporating member of the Hartford Area Development Corporation. He served as an alderperson, also as a commissioner for the Hartford Community Development Authority, a founding member of the Hartford Business Improvement District, a founding member of the Shower Arts and Activity Center, is a member of the Hartford Lions and Hartford Masonic Lodge, and has served in many roles in his local church, the First United Methodist Church here in Hartford. Dennis has been just an outstanding advocate for community banking and is dedicated his entire professional career to the continuance of banks as independent community banks. He's been incredibly supportive of members of the board, all employees, both past and present here at the bank. He's been a great and tremendous mentor and cheerleader. And I think all of us, whether we're associated as a friend, a shareholder, a former employee, a current employee, a fellow director, or a customer have been the benefactor of Dennis's tremendous efforts that he's put forth over the past 60 years. So we applaud Dennis and are indebted to him for his contribution to F&B Hartford Bancorp Inc. and the Forte Bank. And I wish Dennis would have been here today, but he and Don are taking a well-deserved break from winter down in Florida with his son and daughter-in-law. So if you happen to see Dennis, I would encourage you to just express your gratitude to him as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, so key points for shareholders for voting. If you prepared and returned a proxy, shares will be cast as directed in the proxy. Shareholders in attendance today who have not returned a proxy should have received a ballot upon registration. At this time, you may cast your ballot and present completed ballots to the ballot clerk. I will appoint Kathy Ingalls to serve as today's ballot clerk. Voting will remain open until 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Shareholders who submitted a proxy may vote by ballot. However, if you are doing so, you will be required to do so in accordance with the provisions outlined in the February 24th, 2021 letter to shareholders. Those provisions require the shareholder to contact our corporate secretary to receive a ballot and then submit the ballot via electronic means by the deadline. So election of directors voting results.
Okay, so we received no ballots. We offered out no ballots today. So these are the results here, Michelle.
So proxy voting in favor of the three nominees, 379,370. Withholding authority to vote for all three nominees, 3,000. Withholding authority to vote for individual nominees, 452. So ballot voting, we had none. for all of these. So in favor of all three nominees, 0. Withholding authority to vote for all three nominees, 0. Withholding authority to vote for individual nominees, 0. In recognition of the number of shares cast via proxy and in person on the matter of the election of directors as just announced, the chair recognizes that the three nominees have received a sufficient number of votes in favor of their election as directors of the corporation. I would declare them duly elected, subject the 3 p.m. closure for all voting and confirmation by the corporation secretary. So now I ask for a motion for the same proxy arrangement for next year's annual meeting.
So move.
And second, Al, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then I'd just like to make a few comments. We on the board are committed to serving the communities we serve in, and Forte Bank supports the local economy. Through periods of good and bad economic times, Forte Bank remains an anchor of the community. They provide loans for local businesses and individuals alike, helping each of us on our paths towards success. As everyone is aware of the pandemic that struck us all in 2020, Forte Bank was able to stand strong. We were there and continued to be there for all our current customers and new customers. I would like to thank the entire Forte Bank staff and executive team for their efforts in 2020. We have all had to be able to adjust to many things we have not experienced in the past. We do look forward and do hope that we will all be able to do this annual meeting in person next year. So does anyone have any final questions or comments? No? Yes, Jim.
I think I can speak on behalf of the stockholders community. I would like to thank the officers, the board, and employees for a spectacular year. Not only what you did for the stockholders, but what you did for your employees, and also what you do for the community. I think we all want to thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. So if there is no other comments or questions, having concluded all business to properly come before this annual meeting, we will end in-person and electronic activities. This meeting will automatically adjourn at 3 p.m. today.